I grew up in the University of the Philippines. My parents were professors in UP Diliman. My father was a professor in psychology, and my mother was also a professor in the Department of Anthropology. So basically, I grew up in the university environment. We're nine all in all. I'm the seventh, but two died after me. So eventually, I became the youngest. They died at an early age. I have a very beautiful wife and three lovely children. I have to see to it that my family is well taken care of. And my inspiration for working hard is not only the science, it's also the family. It's a good combination, really, kasi when I work, I address my responsibilities for the family. And because of family that is very responsive, very supportive, I am able to do work properly. When I wake up in the morning, I go to work, which is just probably 5 minutes. It's just at the back of the National Institute of Geological Sciences. I just have to cross CP Garcia. When I work, I work up to 5 o'clock, sometimes more. But I try to see to it that I'm home for dinner. I was teaching here in the University of the Philippines. When I took up my PhD, I did it in England. But when I came back in 2000, I got involved in a lot of disaster research. Whenever there was a disaster, I would go there and help in the search and rescue efforts, as well as do forensic analysis of the disaster. And we do the research work in order to find out what mistakes were made and try to learn from it so that we won't repeat the same mistakes. There were many disasters that we studied since 2000. This was the Mindoro disaster in 2005, for the Infanta disaster. We also had the Uloy floods, which killed a lot of people. We had the Sendong floods. And Sendong was the last disaster before Project Noah was created. Each and every disaster was unique. It unfolded in a different way. And we tried to collect all of the similarities. We tried to collate also the differences, why each disaster was unique. And we tried to list down also the mistakes that transpired leading to the disaster. We tried to make suggestions on how we can improve disaster management. One of which was the use of open data, open science, and open governance. I was not directly affected by a flood, nor a landslide, nor the devastating impacts of an earthquake. Directly, I was not affected. Indirectly, I was, because we were involved in a lot of studies and participation in search and rescue efforts. In that case, there was indirect participation, and it affected me a lot. Why? Because I count dead bodies. Each and every disaster, we would count dead bodies. I would see people in pain. I would see the relatives, the survivors in pain. Not just physically, but emotionally. And that had a great impact on me. Project Noah was created after the Sendong disaster that devastated Cagayan de Oro and Iligan. After that disaster, the Department of Science and Technology, through the instruction of the former president, created NOAA. The program NOAA was designed to gather all of the funded research and development projects of government, put them together, those that were related to disaster risk reduction, and put them into operation so that there will be a direct impact of the research to the people that are in need. It is important to note at this point that there are different types of scientific research. One is what we call as policy research. We write the policies depending on the findings of the research for disaster risk reduction. There's what we call as translational research. We create the product and translate it. And there's such a thing called as operational research. You have to be embedded in the disaster risk reduction efforts of the country to learn about the problems, to learn about how we do disaster risk reduction. In disaster risk reduction, you have to be engaged in the actual day-to-day operations to learn and to test also the science that needs to be applied. And when you do that, you come out with the best products in the battle against hazards impacts. Awareness has increased. We are sure that we helped in the effort. After NOAA, there were two events that killed a lot of people in certain places. That was Pablo in Compostela Valley and Yolanda. In disaster risk reduction, we recognize that there are two important parts. One is warning, and the other is the appropriate response of people in communities with regard to the warning. So, warning is the responsibility of government. It must be accurate, it must be reliable, it must be understandable and timely. But no amount of warning will work if the action in the community, if the action in the ground is not appropriate. So it's very important that those two match. It requires a lot of effort and it requires time. It requires long-term education, engagement of the communities, awareness building. We need access to hazard maps which were absent during Pablo and Haiyan that reflected not only what the people knew and experienced, but also maps that would depict the hazards of the future. That includes the impacts of climate change, and they need to be modeled because we cannot rely just on historical data and the experience of the people, because the disasters that will happen in the future can be bigger than what the people know. All that we can do is to do our best, put the best science in the forefront of battle. And if we do that, we stand a better chance for survival. People, if they don't embrace the science and technology, will render the work of NOAA and all other groups who are involved in disaster risk reduction, at least the scientific part, to be useless. People must embrace the science and technology. What we want is to have greater impact and to be able to achieve zero casualties, because one life lost is one too many. Now, how do we do that? How do we get the people to embrace the science and technology? We have to understand the mindset of the Filipino people. We need to have social scientists on board. We need to use the arts, literature. We need to use music. We are trying to get or go in a direction wherein we become more resilient through science. Somebody else may fill in the work that Project NOAA has accomplished, but that would be in the future. Without Project NOAA, the work that could be done that would replicate what NOAA has done in the past 5 years would have been delayed by 5 years. Without Project NOAA, probably things would be delayed at the very least.